Have you ever had this feeling that you really want to be someone who draws, but every time you sit down to draw, it somehow becomes heavier than you expected? You save tutorials, download new brushes, and tell yourself, okay, this time I'm really gonna start. But then the drawing doesn't look the way you imagined, so the excitement disappears. So before you try to get better at drawing, I think there are a few things you need to hear first. Because the way you begin drawing can either make drawing feel something you want to come back to, or make you stop before you've had enough time to actually learn. So in this video, I want to talk about 3 things I think you need to know before you start drawing. By the end, you will know how to begin in a way that feels lighter, more doable, and much easier to come back to. Before we get into it, the drawing footage you are seeing is from a recent lesson inside my drawing membership, where I show my students how to practice painting flowers in a watercolor style. I also made a free PDF drawing guide for these flowers, so if you want to draw along, you can find the link in the description. The first thing I want to say is try not to set the bar too high for yourself, especially when you're just starting. But I know how tempting it is. You see those really effortless looking drawing videos online where it feels like the artist can just bring everything to life in just a few lines. Maybe it's just a simple sketch, but suddenly the character has personality. And when you see those kind of videos, of course you feel inspired, you get excited, and you feel motivated to draw. But what we don't see is how long it took them to make it look that easy. Any drawing that looks effortless usually has years of experience behind it, years of messy sketches, unfinished drawings, weird proportions, awkward colors, and moments where the artist had to stop and figure out why something wasn't working. So if you're just starting and you compare your first attempts to someone else's years of experience, drawing is going to feel very heavy. That's why I really don't think your first goal should be something like, I want to make impressive art. I think your first goal should be much gentler. Something like, can I make drawing feel possible enough that I want to come back to draw again tomorrow? That's why I usually recommend starting with smaller, softer subjects. Simple still life, fruit, flowers, leaves, houseplants, just things that you really see from your daily life. And what you're seeing now is some demonstrations inside my drawing membership. I just love sharing how I practice drawing these kind of small everyday subjects. They are just the kind of things I naturally come back to when I want drawing to feel calm, doable, and not too intimidating. And I think this kind of gentle practice is just one of the best way to build confidence in the beginning of your drawing journey. I do remember when I started drawing around like 12-13 years ago, I didn't have some huge goal in mind. I just really enjoyed carrying my art journal with me, and I would just draw every little things from my day, what I ate, where I went, a little view from a cafe. It wasn't serious, it wasn't impressive, but it made me feel calm. And gradually drawing became a way for me to sit down, slow down, and release some of the stress from work, life, and everything happening around me. So for me, drawing has always been a form of self-care first. And because I didn't make every drawing feel like a test, it just became much easier for me to keep going. So that is the mindset I want you to have in the beginning. Start with less pressure, choose subjects that feel doable, let yourself enjoy simple drawings. And if you need guidance, follow a tutorial or draw along with someone, that's okay too, because before drawing becomes something you can seriously improve at, it first needs to become something you can actually return to. The next thing I want to talk about is practice. Because once drawing starts to feel less scary, the next question is, how do you actually get better? And I think one mistake a lot of beginners make is practicing in a very random way. One day you're drawing portraits, the next day you're drawing landscape, and then you see a cartoon style tutorial, then you jump on it, and then the next day you see someone sharing a realistic drawing, then you love it, and then you try that. So it feels like you are drawing a lot, you're doing a lot, you're spending a lot of time, you're trying a lot of things, but there's no direction behind it. You are making drawings, but you don't really know why you are making that specific drawing or what kind of skill you are trying to improve. Although I do want to be clear, if you're only drawing for fun, that is completely fine. You don't always need a plan. Sometimes you can just draw whatever feels nice that day. But if you genuinely want to improve over time, then I think focused practice is really important. You need to know what you are practicing. For example, let's say you want to get better at drawing characters. Then the first thing actually is, what style do you want to practice? Is it children's book illustration style? Is it like cartoon style? Is it realistic style, right? And then you want to start breaking it down. So what do artists in this style draw facial features? How do they simplify the eyes, the nose, the mouth? How do they draw hair? How do they draw outfits without making everything too complicated? So instead of practicing characters in a very general way, it's better to do something like, for 1 week you only study facial features in that style, and then another week you focus on studying different body proportions, and then another week you focus on how do you draw the character in different ages. This is what I mean by focused practice, or you can maybe say targeted practice. You choose one direction and then you stay with one small part of that direction long enough for your brain to start noticing patterns, because your brain needs repetition. You usually have to draw the same type of thing many times before it starts to feel familiar. Trust me, this is how you slowly build visual memory. For example, in my own style, I mostly draw these kind of like storybook style. I love adding botanical elements. You can see a lot of flowers, leaves, plants, branches. And now a lot of the time, if I do want to add these kind of elements into my drawing, I really don't need to search for references. Not because I magically know how to draw flowers or leaves, but because I've spent enough time practicing those kind of things. I've drawn different type of flowers and leaves again and again from all different kind of references in the style I want. And after enough repetition, I just started building these little visual memory in my head. So every time I draw those kind of elements, I just know how to. This is also why inside my drawing membership, many of my lessons are organized as focused practice with me sessions. They are not just one quick tutorial where I help you copy a drawing I pre-made. A lot of my lessons are long because I want to show you how I actually practice. How I look at the reference, how I study the reference, how I stylize from that reference, how I decide what to keep, what to simplify, and how to draw the same type of things in one consistent drawing style. For example, in this lesson where I guide my students to practice drawing leaves, I demonstrated 4 different types of leaves in the same lesson because I don't want you to only learn how to draw one leaf. I want you to start understanding the drawing language behind it. I want you to draw the same type of subject with me a few times so everything starts to click. You begin to notice, oh, this is how we observe this type of reference. This is how we draw this kind of style. So then after the guided lesson, I encourage my students to keep practicing with the extra homework pack. And those are still in the same subject area. So they are just more leaf references. But now instead of me guiding every single step, you now try to apply the same method you learned on your own. And this is where the learning becomes much deeper because you're not just copying anymore. You are practicing the same type of drawing enough time that your brain starts to understand how it works. And this is really the goal of my lessons. They are practice with me sessions based on how I do my daily drawing practice. I help you repeat the same kind of drawing language enough times until it starts to make sense to you. Because I truly believe improvement does not come from jumping around all the time. It comes from staying with one thing long enough that you actually understand it. So if you feel like you've been drawing for a while but you're not really improving, ask yourself, am I practicing with a focus? Or am I just collecting random drawing sessions? Because those are very different things. Random drawing can be fun, but focused practice is what helps you grow. And once you start practicing with more focus, you will start to struggle. And I mean struggle a lot. And I think this is the part people don't talk about enough. Because yes, drawing can be relaxing. It can be this quiet little hobby you do to relax. And I really believe in that. But improving at drawing is just different. When you practice with intention, you naturally start noticing the gaps in your skills. Maybe your rough sketch looks kind of cute, but when you clean it up, it suddenly loses all its charm. Or maybe you know what you want the drawing to feel like, but you don't know how to get it there yet. It can also be you're trying to draw from a reference, but you're not sure what to keep, what to simplify, or what to change. Or maybe the colors looked beautiful in your head, but once you put them down, everything feels muddy or flat. And you end up looking at your drawing and thinking, I know something is wrong, but I don't know how to fix. And that part is very frustrating, and I think this is where a lot of people start wondering, maybe I'm just not talented. But honestly, I don't think that is a problem. Most of the time, it just means you've reached a problem you don't know how to solve yet. And that is where real practice begins. I recently heard this idea from Alex Hormozi, and it really stayed with me. He said it's not really about doing what you love, it's about finding something you love enough that it's worth suffering for. And I know the word suffering sounds a little too dramatic when we are talking about drawing, but I think the idea is so true, because passion doesn't mean everything will always feel easy. Passion doesn't mean you will always feel motivated, and passion doesn't mean every time you sit down to draw you will feel cozy and peaceful. Sometimes passion means you care enough to stay when the drawing looks bad. You care enough to ask, okay, why is this not working? You care enough to practice again and again, even when it feels frustrating and slow and uncomfortable. You care enough to stay in that awkward middle stage and search for solution instead of just running away and blame it on I'm not talented enough. So I think there is an important question to ask yourself. Do you only like the idea of drawing? Or do you love it enough that you're willing to put in the time and the uncomfortable practice it takes to actually improve? Because if you just want to have fun, if you just want to have an art hobby, then there are plenty of step-by-step free YouTube tutorial that you can just follow, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if drawing is something you truly care about, there will be moments where it asks more from you. More practice, more patience, more attention, more problem solving, more time than you expected. And this is actually one of the biggest reasons I created my drawing membership, because I know how frustrating it feels to really want to improve but keep running into problems you don't know how to solve. Because I've been there too. I struggled a lot on my own, so now I want to be the person to help those who are out there suffering. However, I want to be very honest, my membership is not for everyone. A lot of my lessons are very long because I have to show you the whole thinking part of how I solve a problem, or maybe even why is this a problem. We will be looking at references and decide together what are we actually seeing here, what should we keep, what should we simplify, how can we turn this real photo into something that feels more like an illustration. Then we move into rough sketch, and sometimes the rough sketch looks awkward for a while, so I talk through what I'm noticing, what I'm changing, and how I slowly try to make it look better. Then we refine it into line art, and this is another place where people often get stuck, because sometimes the rough sketch has life, but then the clean line art suddenly feels stiff. So I explain how I try to clean up the lines without losing the softness and charm from our rough sketch. And then we move into color, and I never say use this color here, use that color there. I always talk about why I'm choosing certain colors, and sometimes what we chose doesn't work together, and then I have to explain why it doesn't work together and how we fix that problem. So in my lessons, we are solving all those little problems as they come up. And I want you to see how I think through those decisions slowly, so you can start learning how to solve similar problems in your own drawing practice too. However, watching me solve a problem is only one part of it. You still need to practice it yourself, because drawing on your own feels different. When I'm guiding you, everything makes sense. You might think, oh, I see why she simplified the leaf that way. Oh, I now understand why she changed that color. But when you sit down and try it on your own, suddenly you might get stuck again. But that's normal. That doesn't mean you didn't learn anything. It just means now you're trying to apply it with your own hand and your own decisions. Sometimes you might need to go back to the lesson and watch that part again to see how I solved that problem again. And sometimes you might need another pair of eyes. That is why my membership comes with the community area and also the feedback area, so you can share your progress, show me the homework, and tell me where you felt stuck. And I always give personal feedback so that I can point out the problem and give you a clearer direction for what to pay attention to next time, so you eventually can improve. Then of course you still need to take my advice and keep practicing. That is the part I can't do for you. So as you see, my membership is really for people who are willing to spend time with the process, willing to watch how I think through my own drawing practice, so they can slowly build the same kind of problem-solving skill in their own work. It's for people who are willing to ask questions, willing to receive feedback, willing to look at their drawing honestly and say, okay, this part still needs work, and then go back to your drawing practice and try again. And I think this is the honest part of passion. If you say, I really love drawing and I really want to get better, then you also have to be honest about what that means. It means there will be hard moments, There will be ugly drawings. There will be problems you don't know how to solve yet. There will be days where practice feels slow, frustrating, but in those moments, you keep practicing, you take feedback, you try again, you stay with the uncomfortable part because this is something you're passionate about. So if you're watching these because you want to start drawing, I hope you don't leave feeling like you need to pressure yourself more. I hope you leave with a gentler and clearer way to begin. Start with something small, give your practice a little more focus, and when drawing starts to feel hard, don't take that as proof that you are not good enough. It usually just means you've reached the next thing you need to learn. And of course, you're always welcome to join my membership to get my help. The link is in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.